What is up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Anthony KT Wrestling. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Now, I know, like last week's episode where I talked about the man himself, John Cena, from the time he was signed in 2001 to his announcement of his retirement for 2025. I had a John Cena shirt on. And this week, on this week's episode, I got me and Cody Rhodes a Cody Rhodes shirt on, the American Nightmare. No, I am not here to talk about Cody Rhodes. Maybe in a future episode I might do that. I have this shirt on because as I am recording this episode, in about an hour and a half, Saturday night's main event is going to be on, and I am I'm cheering for Cody Rhodes to retain the championship, and I'm excited for the match. I'm excited for Saturday night's main event. I am so happy that it's back. I'm already excited that they've announced the next episode of Saturday night's main event in January, January 25th, I believe. So I'm excited for it. But I am here to talk about something else for this week's episode. So let's get to it. So on my WordPress page, I have a blog that I've been doing for a couple of years called Let's Talk Wrestling, and it's really Let's Talk Wrestling was just this thing that I created for myself, just to talk about wrestling. And first it started about how I became a pro wrestling fan, mostly a WWE fan, but really how I got into it, how I became a fan, how I started watching it. And just to give you a quick little history, I became a fan back in 1987. I'm at a friend's house, and we're about to go into his room to play some Atari, and his dad was in the living room with a beer in his hand, sitting on a Barker Lounger, and he was watching WrestleMania 3. And as we're headed to his room to play some Atari, I see Macho Man Randy Savage on the top rope, about to drop the elbow on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And this is the match that was for the Intercontinental Championship that Ricky the Dragon Boat Steamboat eventually that won during that match. I sit there and I watched that happen. I was just like, this is so cool. And I tell him I'll be right there in a minute. I go into the living room. I sit on the couch. On the floor. I'm sitting on the floor, and I'm just watching this match, and I just think it's so cool, right? And I'm just loving every second of the match. A couple hours later, and I'm watching Hulk Hogan body slam Andre the Giant and then dropping the leg to retain his WWF championship. So cool. And I became a fan at that moment, and then I fell into this, and I remember my mom picking me up, and I'm telling her how much I love what I was watching and how much I loved it. And my dad was never a pro wrestling fan. My dad was a boxing fan. He loved boxing. He hated that I watched wrestling. I loved watching it. He would always try to get me to stop watching it, but not my mom. My mom supported me in this journey I was about to enter into. She helped me find other WWF at the time programs to watch, and I just fell into it, and the magazines and the toys and everything in the shows. And eventually when Monday Night Raw became a thing on USA Network, and then the whole Monday Night War thing, and then watching Monday Night Raw but recording Monday Night Nitro, and then going back, and it was the whole thing, right? I just fell into it. The New Generation era, the Attitude era, the Ruthless Aggression, the PG era, as they called it, and now this era that we are in now, the Paul Levesque era, as a lot of it are calling it. Even Michael Cole is calling it that. I've been a WWE fan since 1987, pro wrestling fan 1987. I love watching WWE, but I still enjoy watching other wrestling programs, other wrestling promotions like New Japan, like TNA, like AEW. I enjoy watching these other programs because some of our favorite pro wrestlers, men and women, whether they leave the company or they get released for from the company, they're going to end up on these other promotions. So it's always cool when you're a fan of a certain pro wrestler in WWE, and they leave, and then you find them somewhere else. It's fun to follow them and see where they end up going, and then you watch them in this program, and then you end up becoming a fan of that promotion because you're originally there at first to see what they get into on this promotion, but then you end up discovering a whole new batch of pro wrestlers, men and women, and different types of matches and a different type of promotion that's completely different from the other one. And that's beautiful. And in the world that we live in today, outside of politics, outside of what's going on in our personal lives, professional wrestling is a much bigger landscape than it was when I was growing up watching it in the late 1980s, in the 1990s, even a little bit in the early 2000s. It's a much bigger landscape today, and it's great to see. And being a pro wrestling fan, you can like one promotion, not like the other, but there's enough room for all of us. We don't need to be doing the Monday Night Wars anymore. We don't even need to be doing what a lot of people were calling a couple years ago the Wednesday Night Wars between NXT and AEW Dynamite when they were both on Wednesday nights. We don't need to do that anymore. We can just be fans and take it all in and enjoy. And that's what Let's Talk Wrestling really was for me. It's just an opportunity that I created for myself just to talk about something that I love and share it with all of you. And then I created this show that a lot of you are watching now, and I appreciate you for watching it, Anthony KT Wrestling, where I just talk about wrestling and talk about what's going on, mostly in WWE, but every once in a while I talk about something that got my attention in AEW or TNA or New Japan, whatever. So for this episode, we're talking about my blog that I have on my AKT Publishing WordPress page. It's called Let's Talk Wrestling. I got 44 entries to Let's Talk Wrestling, and out of those 44, when I got to Let's Talk Wrestling 40, Let's Talk Wrestling 40 was perfect because it was the one that I talked about WrestleMania 40. It was perfect. Let's Talk Wrestling 40 with WrestleMania 40. Perfect. And that's what I did with it. And then after Let's Talk Wrestling 40, Let's Talk Wrestling 41 was really the aftermaths of WrestleMania. And then I decided to do something different with it and focus on a single topic and turn that single topic into a series for however long. And my first addition to that series for Let's Talk Wrestling was called The Self-Proclaimed Tribal Chief. And I spent the last 3 parts talking about Solo Sikoa and how he self-proclaimed himself as the Tribal Chief and how and what he did from moments after WrestleMania, WrestleMania 40, all the way up to the moment we are in now, and learning about the match that will take place January 6th, the first episode of Raw on Netflix. So with that, I want to just take this moment and I want to break down, I kind of want to just recap part 1, part 2, and part 3 of my series, The Self-Proclaimed Tribal Chief, with all of you. And then I have a new segment that I am excited to share with all of you. And we're going to get to that segment in a little bit. I'll tell you the name of that segment as well when we get to it. But first, let's just dive in. So, The Self-Proclaimed Tribal Chief Part 1 is really about the events that take place after WrestleMania for Solo Sikoa. And this is his start to becoming a tribal chief. And first it starts with him taking the reins as tribal chief, and he does that by getting rid of his brother Jimmy, and getting rid of Paul Heyman. And also in doing that and getting rid of Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman, he adds on members. Tama Tonga was first, then Tonga Loa, and then Jacob Fatu. Now Solo Sikoa has his bloodline, and this is mercenaries. This is a mercenary type bloodline that Solo has. Take no prisoners, leave, just merciful. And that's part one. And then part one for me, for part one, it ends with Solo Sikoa taking the Ulu Fala, the tribal beads from Roman Reigns. After Roman Reigns is gone, he has these beads, and Jacob Fatu putting them around Solo Sikoa. Part two is the return of Roman Reigns. We get to SummerSlam, and we get to and at SummerSlam, it is Solo Sikoa versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. And Roman Reigns makes his return, ensuring Cody Rhodes keeps his WWE Championship, because he does not want Solo Sikoa to have that championship. But also, with Roman Reigns returning, this begins what will be a bloodline civil war. And part three is is really when things start to get off the ground. So first, I want to tell you a little about the Ulu Fala. So the Ulu Fala in Samoan are traditional worn by High Chief for important occasions and significant events. The first time we see Roman Reigns wearing Ulu Fala is in 2020, when the Wild Samoans, his uncle and his father, R.I.P., put the tribal beads around Roman Reigns' neck, giving Roman Reigns the rightful title of the tribal chief and the head of the table. As we continue, and that's just a little something of what the tribal beads are and what they mean and how much they mean to Roman Reigns. So in part three, Roman Reigns is rebuilding his bloodline, and as he's rebuilding his bloodline, it is not easy. It is not easy because the first person who comes back is during Bad Blood, when Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes are teaming up to take on Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And the first one to come back is Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso is the first to come back to get Roman Reigns back to rejoin him, because he needs help. This is the common thing that we get into, is that he needs help. Jimmy Uso comes back. Now Jimmy Uso is on the trail to try to recruit more members as we now get to what will be War Games at Survivor Series. So Jimmy Uso first tries his brother Jey Uso, and Jey Uso wants nothing to do with it. But Jey Uso is forced to come in when Solo Sikoa and members of his bloodline ensure that Jey Uso loses his Intercontinental Championship in a rematch against Braun Breaker. And that brings Jey Uso into the fold when we get to that Friday night on SmackDown, when Jey Uso returns the receipt and ensures that the Tongans, Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga, lose their tag team championships to Motor City Machine Gun. And that brings Jey in, but there's a lot of stuff to hash out between, not just with Jimmy and Jey, but also with Jey and Roman, and that takes a while. And then we get to, and they're able to come to some kind of agreement and work it out well enough to get them to Crown Jewel, where it's a 6-man tag match. And in that 6-man tag match, Solo Sikoa's bloodline wins that match. But here comes Sami Zayn, and you bring Sami Zayn back into the fold of the bloodline. And at first, Sami is there for Jay. He's not there for Roman. He's not there for Jimmy. He's only there for Jay. But as we get closer now to what eventually was War Games and trying to figure out who the 5th man for both sides is going to be, there's a lot of things that need to be hashed out and worked out, and they work it out well enough to get them to War Games. And then you bring in CM Punk, who does this favor for Paul Heyman, and then you have Bronson Reed, who comes in on Solo's side because Bronson Reed wants the main event spot. He wants to be in the lights where he deserves that main event spot. So he's there strictly for business reasons. He's not there because he's a believer and he loves his tribal chief. No, he is there for business reasons. OG Bloodline, which is Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, which is Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, Jimmy, and Jey Uso, with CM Punk. That's your OG Bloodline. Then you got Solo's Bloodline, which is Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tagaloa, and then with Bronson Reed. Hell of a War Games match which left injuries for Tongaloa, Bronson Reed, and Jimmy Uso, who are out for a significant amount of time with broken body parts. So, we get to the end of War Games, and there's one win each. And I want to read this little thing that I put at the end of part 3 of the Self-Proclaimed Tribal Chief. I put, the story of the bloodline will continue into 2025 with Roman still looking to reclaim what rightfully belongs to him and was given to him in the Ulu Fala. How will Roman reclaim the Ulu Fala? What are the next steps for Roman Reigns? What are the next steps for the self-proclaimed tribal chief, Solo Sikoa? These are questions I cannot answer. However, like all of you, I will continue to sit back and, when it's necessary, sit at the edge of my seat and enjoy what comes next in this next chapter of the bloodline. Roman Reigns, and for the self-proclaimed tribal chief, Solo Sikoa. Now that is how I ended part 3. Now, Let's Talk Wrestling presents the self-proclaimed tribal chief, part 1, part 2, part 3, all available on my WordPress page. I'll tell you where you can find it. I'll tell you how you can get there in a little bit. But it was always going to be a 3-part series that I did, and that's how I ended it for that 3-part series. And then a week after I had put that out, we get to SmackDown, and SmackDown lays it down, and it becomes official that now, knowing on January 6th, the first episode of Raw on Netflix will be a tribal battle between Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. Now, if Roman Reigns wins this match, he will finally be able to regain what was taken from him, what is rightfully his. That is the Ulu Fala, the tribal beads, to once again feel that power that he had as the tribal chief and the head of the table. And that's what's important to him is that. Right now, is getting that Ulu Fala back. Now, I believe he gets that Ulu Fala back. His next steps is regaining the championship. Now, there is this thing going on between Raw, Netflix, and SmackDown where they're doing the trades and the windows and stuff to bring in people, and they're doing this until we get to that Raw on Netflix. The countdown for Raw on Netflix has begun. We are weeks away from that. as I am taping this, there are only like 3 Raws left on USA Network before we head over to Netflix. It's exciting. We're getting very close. Looking forward to this. So we now know what this match. We now know we have a match between Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns, tribal battle. The tribal beads are definitely on the line for this. Roman needs to win this match so he can regain his tribal beads. That is really the last piece. And really, we're left with another question: is if Solo Sikoa loses this match, loses the tribal beads, then what? Then what is next for his bloodline? Does his bloodline fade away, or does this make this a bloodline even more ruthless now that they have nothing left to lose at all? I do not know. I am looking forward to it. So let's talk wrestling. My blog, especially part 1, part 2, part 3 of the Self-Proclaimed Tribal Chief. You will be able to find this on my WordPress page. The link is in the bio for this. You'll be able to catch it there on the link. Now, so go ahead and look for it. Link is in the bio for that. But but you can also find it if you go ahead and just type in on the browser WWE Since 83. That's all one word, and that's SINCE 83.wordpress.com. Put that all in one word, and that'll take you right to my WordPress, my AKT Publishing WordPress page. From there you can read the Self-Proclaimed Tribal Chief, part 1, part 2, part 3, and as well as all the other previous blog entries of Let's Talk Wrestling. And soon enough, I will announce I'm going to be doing a new series for Let's Talk Wrestling. Excuse me. I will be announcing that in the coming weeks. But let's move on. Move on to, before we go, I want to introduce this new segment I have for this show, Anthony KT Wrestling. It's called Wrestling with Rumors. Yes, I am excited about this. So basically, I am going to be reading some rumors that have been reported. Remember, rumors are rumors. None of them are true until it actually happens. So here are some rumors. So here we are. We're just going to dive right in. So here are some rumors. So after readers reached out to PW Insider about Zelina Vega's seemingly waving goodbye after the Women's Intercontinental title tournament match on Raw, Insider's Mike Johnson confirmed with WWE sources that Vega is under contract to the company for several more years. So it's not a case of her exiting. What it could mean, I don't know. Gotta probably read in between the lines of that. But Zelina Vega ain't going anywhere, and if anything, she'll end up on, hopefully during this whole trade, you can put her on SmackDown, and whoever wins the United States Championship match between Chelsea Green and Michin, possible opportunity for her, for someone to face. And there you go. But I fully believe that Zelina Vega will win a singles championship in WWE. If it's not one of the main world women championship titles, it's going to be an Intercontinental title. It's going to be a United States title. Now, moving on to the next one, Viper of PW Nexus claims that many people in WWE expect Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch will return by Royal Rumble 2025 on February 1st. Again, that is a rumor. If that actually happens, it has been a minute. It has been a while since we've seen Charlotte Flair, and we haven't seen Becky Lynch since she lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Liv Morgan in a steel cage match. So that would actually be, I really hope at least the Becky Lynch one is true and that she'll come back come Royal Rumble. There are some new championships for both Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch to win. So I hope it is true and they end up coming back. Russell Votes Radio says some people in WWE are pushing for Natalya to win the Women's Intercontinental Championship, like her uncle Bret Hart winning the Intercontinental Championship. I think it's a great idea. She is a workhorse, and for her to win this championship, I can see it. I can see her winning this championship. I don't know exactly when this would happen. I don't think it would happen during the tournament, but somewhere down the line, I definitely see her winning this Intercontinental Championship, and I hope it's true, and I hope it happens. Last one. PW Insider claims that CM Punk versus Seth Rollins is 100% the current direction for Raw's debut episode on Netflix next month. The match is absolutely part of the plan to come in nuclear hot, although anything can always change. This is true. Anything can always change. It was supposed to be Seth Rollins versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 40 until CM Punk got hurt. So for this to happen on the debut episode of Raw on Netflix, yeah, that's another hot match. That is a match a lot of us want to see. I felt like this past week's episode on Raw, they kind of got the engine going on that with between Rollins and Punk. So it feels like that is the direction they're going. But all we can do is watch and see which of these rumors are true and which of these rumors are not. I have one more. Oh, I have one more. Goldberg is expected back in WWE early 2025 per Viper PW Nexus. Goldberg is expected to have 1 or 2 matches before retiring. It was also noted that WWE may have moved away from the Goldberg-Gunther match that they were originally interested in. So, okay, Goldberg is coming back. Looks like this looks like something for Goldberg to come back, have 1 or 2 matches. I'm assuming that I'm assuming that his last match will probably take place WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. It might be like, if anything, they would do a match. I would have to say they would either do one match, unless one of his last matches is at WrestleMania, and his second last match and his last match is at SummerSlam, because this year's SummerSlam will also be a 2-day spectacular, which I love. I'm excited for that. You got 2 days of WrestleMania, and then you got 2 days of SummerSlam. Let's go. So that is Wrestling with Rumors. This is going to be a regular thing that I'm going to be doing as AKT Wrestling. But thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Anthony KT Wrestling. I will be back next week with a new round of Wrestling with Rumors, as well as something new to talk about as we get closer to the end of 2024. In the meantime, in between time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next one. Peace, y'all.